Howdy folks, making a video tonight about a list of my favorite films. A friend sent me his list of his favorite 20 films, and I did narrow down the very top 20. It was really hard for me to do that because I had about 30 I wanted to send him, but I sent my very top 20 to him, and I'm going to make my list here for you, but it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be over 200 films. You see, I've been to probably over 4,000 movies in my life. Most of them I've seen at the theater on the big screen. Although since VHS and DVDs came along, I've watched a lot at home as well, I admit. There was one year I watched over 162 films at the theater and did a little critique on each one. Kept track of them all that year. So I am a big movie goer. I love still going to see films at the theater, more so than watching them at home, but I have 2,000 DVDs and Blu-rays in my collection at home. I rent them from the library or check them out from the library. I get DVD by mail with Netflix only, not streaming. And I also have a couple of streaming services right now, and I alternate every once in a while because the choices on streaming aren't really up to snuff, and you have buffering problems and can't own the film, and one day that may go away, and so I'm not sold on streaming. I like having the actual film in a case that I can take out, play. I have 6 Blu-ray and DVD players and a couple other backups, so I'm in pretty good shape the rest of my life to watch movies. When I go to a film, you know, I probably could have had a little small career maybe as a movie critic, but I never really pursued it or anything. I do movie reviews on YouTube, if you haven't noticed that by now. And they're just little short, off-the-cuff things I do spontaneously, improvise. I don't give it a lot of thought. Usually it's my first impression after I see the film, which is usually the best one. I like to go to movies for a lot of reasons. I just like the escapism of it, getting into another world for a little while, for a couple hours. And I like seeing the film in an audience with other people, but I don't like people disturbing me with their phones or talking, but I don't mind having other audience members, hearing them laugh or shriek or make sounds during the movie. That's part of the fun of being in a movie theater. Sometimes I even talk to some of the other theater goers after the show. It's happened. And I oftentimes talk to the management and the people walking out about the films I see. I like to go to films to learn something on some level, whether it's information that'll stimulate me to go out later and do some research about a biopic about someone's life or a historical-based story movie. That way I can go out and even learn more after the movie. It's really a fun part of going to movies. I also like when I can identify or have some kind of a way to relate to a character in the film. It gives me a little rooting interest for that character depending on what the story's about. I love to laugh, so of course I like good comedies, but so many of the Hollywood comedies and formula movies and CGI and slap-fast dialogue, insulting people, those films don't do it much for me. I know to avoid them pretty much nowadays, and I do. They're garbage. They really are. I really much prefer more of the independent films out there that are made, foreign films sometimes. Documentaries are a favorite of mine. I've been watching a lot of those on Tubi recently. Discovered Tubi a couple of years ago, and really, they have some really terrific documentaries if you don't mind the commercials. But I'm really a fan of going to the theater to see a film. A lot of times I hope that I will learn something on a level of like a moral lesson or an idea or a concept that I maybe hadn't considered before. If a film can stimulate me that way and I walk away with some new information to ponder, I think the film did a good job. So if I come out with a good feeling at the end of the movie, even if it's not a happy ending movie, they don't have to be happy endings for me to think it's a good film and an enjoyable experience. What I really like in a film is if it's well made, well produced, well acted. Even if the cinematography isn't perfect, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad film in my opinion. But I do like that the film is authentic. There's some authenticity to the film. Given that most of them are fictional films or fictionalized even truthful stories based on truth and all that, they're fictionalized to some degree. And what I mean by truth is that the acting is genuine, the direction was quality such that the performances make me feel like this really was happening on the screen. For a moment, I can kind of lose track of my life or the idea that I'm analyzing the film and get lost in the film. But I do watch films critically. I'm a very critical viewer of films, and after the film's over, I'll even review the movie and sort of ask myself some questions about it. Did this film really add up? You know, what was the value of that film? And I do that little analysis just so that in the long run, I'll decide whether I want to watch that film again. And of course, many of the films that I own, I have watched at least a couple of times or more. And that's the whole purpose of buying movies that you've already seen, is to watch them again, right? You probably do that too. So here goes my list of over 200 films out of, like I said, close to 4,000 that I believe I've seen in my lifetime. And it was hard to narrow it down. Doesn't mean a lot of the films I left off the list aren't good films or I didn't enjoy them. Obviously, I enjoyed way more of the films that I've seen in my life than the ones I didn't enjoy. And I walked out of maybe 8 or 10 films in my lifetime that I paid money in a theater, and it was so disgusting and awful I had to get up and leave. I will do that for a bad movie. I'm not going to waste my life or my time watching a piece of crap. And it's happened a few times, but not very often. So here we go. In no particular order at all. This is Spinal Tap, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Eraserhead, Doctor Strange, Avengers: Infinity War, The Big Lebowski, The Graduate, Bonnie and Clyde, Goodfellas, The Godfather Part 1 and 2, After Hours, Woodstock, My Dinner with Andre, Little Big Man, Stardust Memories, Everything You Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask, Sleeper, Perfume, The Story of a Murderer, Hearts and Minds, that's a documentary, Platoon, JFK, Papillon, the original with Steve McQueen, The Great Escape, Samson and Delilah, the original with Hedy Lamarr and Victor Mature, The Ten Commandments, the original by Cecil B. DeMille with Charlton Heston, The Birds, Some Like It Hot, The Lady from Shanghai, Touch of Evil, Psycho, the original by Alfred Hitchcock, not the terrible Gus Van Sant remake, Cinema Paradiso, Mulholland Drive, Wild at Heart, Raising Arizona, Little Shop of Horrors, the remake by Frank Oz, the musical, Chinatown, Easy Rider, Shampoo, Harold and Maude, Being There, Network, The Shape of Water, La Dolce Vita, The French Connection, just the first one, Full Metal Jacket, MASH, the film MASH, of course, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Midnight Cowboy, Deliverance, The Matrix, Alien and Aliens 2, Body Heat, Pink Flamingos, Goldfinger, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder, of course, Licorice Pizza, that's a recent one, National Lampoon's Vacation and Christmas Vacation, Dazed and Confused, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, The Return of Martin Gere, Life of Brian, The Meaning of Life, Zardoz, Tootsie, A Clockwork Orange, The Thing, this is a remake, the John Carpenter, The Holy Mountain, El Topo, Runaway Train, Dr. Zhivago, Planet of the Apes, the original with Charlton Heston, Blue Velvet, The Doors, Airplane, The Naked Gun, the whole series, Lifeboat, The Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee, City Slickers, Boogie Nights, The Natural, The Way We Were, Fargo, the film, not the FX thing, A Hard Day's Night, Dr. Strangelove, or Why I Quit Worrying and Learned to Love the Bomb, Braveheart, Road Warrior, The Heartbreak Kid, the original with Charles Grodin, not the remake, Dune, the David Lynch version, Terminator and Terminator 2, T2, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original 1950s with Kevin McCarthy, The Truman Show, American Graffiti, Sorcerer, it's William Friedkin, Cat People, The Hunger, Moulin Rouge. It's kind of a remake with Baz Luhrmann. Actually, the original Moulin Rouge was nothing like Baz Luhrmann's, the Moulin Rouge from 2001. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Pulp Fiction, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Casino, Nashville, Little Dieter Needs to Fly, Aguirre, Wrath of God, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, Spartacus, the original Stanley Kubrick directed with Kirk Douglas, Jacob's Ladder, There's Something About Mary, Samsara, another documentary, Koyaanisqatsi, the whole Qatsi trilogy, Powakatsi and Nakoikatsi, those are documentaries, Rain Man, What Dreams May Come, The World According to Garp, The Great Escape, I think I said The Great Escape already, Silence of the Lambs, Love and Death, Radio Days, Forrest Gump, Contact, Ed Wood, Plan 9 from Outer Space, considered by some the worst movie ever made. It's one of the best comedies, in my opinion. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Modern Romance, Lost in America, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Defending Your Life, Mon Oncle d'America, French film. 8.5, Amarcord, The Wire. The Wire is there's also a documentary called Man on Wire that's very, very good. Synecdoche, New York, Gladiator, Dirty Harry, Ex Machina, The Shawshank Redemption, Brazil, Raging Bull, The People versus Larry Flint, The Opposite of Sex, Zombieland, the original, and Zombieland 2, Sorcerer, that's another William Friedkin movie. I think I might have mentioned that too. All That Jazz, The Exorcist, Crimes and Misdemeanors, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, Broadway Danny Rose, Looking for Mr. Goodbar, Terms of Endearment, Kramer versus Kramer, Avatar, Master and Commander, Titanic, and there's a couple more here. Cape Fear, both the original with Robert Mitchum and the Martin Scorsese remake with Robert De Niro. River of No Return, Psych Out, The Trip, a couple of Roger Corman films. Schindler's List, True Romance, The Player, Vincent and Theo, Lust for Life, Something Wild, Paths of Glory, Eyes Wide Shut, The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant, Betty Blue, Drugstore Cowboy, A Man Called Ove, O-V-E. It's, I think, a Swedish film. Scent of a Woman, Vanishing Point, the original, Liquid Sky, The Lair of the White Worm, The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant, The Killing Fields, Volver, Pedro Almodovar, No Country for Old Men, The Getaway, the Steve McQueen, Bullet, Stand By Me, The Howling, Fellini's Roma, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, The Thin Red Line, The Grifters, Prizzi's Honor, Slacker, Clerks, The Mask, Tommy, Women in Love, Velvet Goldmine, Power of the Dog, another one just this year. The Piano, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, The Fly, that's the remake by David Cronenberg with Jeff Goldblum. Sex, Lies, and Videotape, The Cook, The Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, Run Lola Run, Lola, another Fassbender film, Days of Heaven, Voyage of Time, The Tree of Life, Badlands, Reanimator, From Beyond, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Mystery Train, Dead Man, Gimme Danger, Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai, Catch-22, and The Freshman. So there you go, my 200 plus favorite movies. And there's a lot of other good ones that are also favorites, but I just had to limit it to 200 plus. If you have some great ones you want to share with me that weren't on the list, I'd love to hear from you. Be well, see you at the movies, maybe.